idea, and let me run with it. And they said, okay, go for it. There's 6 of them, I guess, in the conference call. Foolishly, I said, I'm a Star Trek fan, which is not foolish, but I want no money for these ideas. I give you all my intellectual property. I want science fiction to predict science fact. The great thing about Star Trek is the flip phone and the iPad. I mean, those came out in Star Trek, and then they became reality. I said, so you have a unique opportunity here of forming our future. Let's collaborate to create a future that's better for our future generations by inspiring students and young people to get excited about the science so they can help populate the universities to create the inventions that can help save this planet that's in jeopardy. And so I ran with the Star Trek theme, and we just saw the last episode last night. And astromycologist Paul Stamets is using the mycelium spore drive. It has become, I couldn't believe it. We're watching this thing, and the Star Trek, the main theme of Star Trek is based on mycelium and the concepts that I gave them. They've elaborated this, 6 ways to Sunday, so they've really taken it.
This is as some sort of a propulsion system?
It's a propulsion system because in my TED Talk, and I've been talking about this a long time, about networks. We have the mycelial network, we have the computer internet, we have the neurological network in our brains, and the organization of dark matter conforms to string theory. So these are 3 archetypes, the same archetype, the same dimensional structures stacked on top of each other. And nature builds upon its prior successes. So networks reward themselves by surviving from catastrophia. So I said, and I'm still bound by confidentiality, and there's an incredibly strict confidentiality agreement that I can only state which has been publicly displayed. But the mycelium spore drive allows through the internet of nature, you might say, to be able to go into hyperspace immediately by tapping into the mycelial archetype. And so astromycologist Stamets now is plugging himself into the mycelial network of the universe. And they can jump rather than using their standard hyperdrive, which you see them streaming across for hours from one part of the universe to the other. They can show up immediately and then disappear.
Is this something that you think could actually be real one day?
Okay, we're pushing the envelope on this one. Baby. This is pushing the envelope on this one. But if you look at the multiverse, and I've had one or two in particular multiverse experiences where time and reality has changed in a way that I cannot explain. It's so
what do you mean?
It's so incredibly profound that I still cannot wrap my mind around it. And
these are psilocybin experiences?
Psilocybin experience. So I think the psilocybin experience might be one portal, and now I'm going to sound like Terrence McKenna, of entering into the multiverse. The idea that time can be bent, that there are multiple universes occurring simultaneously in different realities. And I've had one experience in particular that is just unfathomable to me. I don't know how to explain it.
Give it a shot.
Okay, give it a shot.
You've already blown my mind apart 150 times today.
This is a very deeply personal experience to me, but I was going to the Evergreen State College. I had the Drug Enforcement Administration license. My brother John went to Yale University. He got a graduate scholarship in neurophysiology at the University of Washington. He came out to Washington State in Seattle. I was living in Olympia, Washington. I had a cabin up in the mountains near Darrington, Washington. Then the summertime for 3 years, I set chokers. I was a logger. I really believe in the school of hard knocks and the blending of academia with blue-collar hard work. I love chopping wood. I love running a chainsaw. I love hard labor. I think. It gives my mind some respite to be able to think. So I'm in this highly academic environment. My brother John, he died unfortunately 2 years ago. He got me involved in mushrooms. So I'm going to segue and set the stage here, but I need another 2 minutes to set the stage here. So I'm growing up in a small town in Ohio called Columbiana. My brother John is going to Yale. He comes back one day, and he gives me a book that he's using for his class, but he's on break. And he says, and I'm really fascinated. Now, John went to Mexico, Colombia, came back with great stories of eating psilocybin mushrooms. And my older brother, I just idolized him. And he has a book called Altered States of Consciousness. And so I said, John, can I borrow your book? He said, sure. And I said, but Paul, I need it back. After my break is over, I'm going back to college. This is part of our textbook. So I borrowed his book, Altered States of Consciousness. I'm just fascinated reading it, about all these different ways of expanding your consciousness. I'm 14 years of age. And so my best friend, Ryan Snyder, says, Paul, can I borrow your book? We're hanging together all the time. And I go, yeah, but I need it back. And so he borrows my book, and he doesn't return it. A day, several days pass, a week pass, 2 weeks pass. My brother's coming back on break. He said, I needed that book back, Paul. And I go to Ryan. I go, Ryan, I need my book. And Ryan just kept on avoiding answering the subject. And so I said, finally, give me my book. And Ryan goes, I can't give it to you, Paul. I said, why? He says, my dad burned it. I said, your dad burned my brother's book? I go, WTF? I didn't use this phrase back then. I said, oh my God. And I have a shout out to Ryan Snyder's father that because of that event, it stimulated my interest in altered states of consciousness even more. So so John goes to Yale and goes to the University of Washington. I have this DEA permit. I'm at the Evergreen State College. John calls me up. He says, Paul, I think I found some psilocybin mushrooms. John said, you're really smart. You've been collecting psilocybe cubensis in Colombia and Mexico, but they're much more complicated up here. And I said, let me ask you a few questions. I said, okay, John, do you take a spore print? And he goes, yes. And I go, is the spores purple-brown? And he goes, yes, they are purple-brown. I go, good. Okay. John, does it have a separable gelatinous pellicle? And he goes, what's that? And I go, well, break the cap. These are growing on wood chips. Break the cap and separate the cap very slowly. Do you see a little skin that's translucent? And he breaks it and he goes, yeah, I see that skin. I said, John, they're growing on wood chips. And he goes, yes. I go, are they turning bluish? He goes, yes, they're staying really bright blue. I go, wow. I said, John, how many did you find? He goes, you would not believe it. It's a huge amount. I said, wait. I said, but he said, Paul, they're in a very sensitive place. You better come up here right away. So I jumped in my car and I drove up from Olympia to Seattle, about 60, 70 miles. I get to his house and John's there and I go, well, where are we going? He goes, well, we need some grocery bags, and let's get on our bikes and let's go down there. I go, well, why all the secrecy? And the problem is, well, you'll see. And it was the end of Boat Street. And right at the University of Washington, right off of University Avenue, there's Boat Street. And we get there, and right across the street is a police substation. So we're there, and it was an eruption of this mushroom. There had to be 10,000, 30,000 mushrooms, I don't know. It was about 50 feet by 30 feet, with all been mulched with wood chips. There was an eruption that picked up trash and, debris that picked up 6 inches with solid mushrooms. There are mushrooms everywhere. I've, to this day, never seen so many mushrooms in one concentrated area. So we waited till the police cars went away, and we're kind of idling there, and then the police cars would go away from the substation. We'd start picking mushrooms, and we fill up a groceries bag or two, and then the other students are walking by. What are you doing? Oh, nothing, and then we eventually go, yeah, there's plenty for everybody, so it was like pretty good. Everyone's all hanging out as a little group, like at the bus stop, right? We're not really waiting for the bus, right? We're waiting for the police cars to go away,
right?
And then we pick all these mushrooms. So we got about 8 or 10 grocery bags full of these mushrooms.
How bizarre!
It turned out to be a new species called Psilocybe stuntzii, named after
a new species.
It's new species.
New as in hadn't been discovered before.
Had
you
never
guys
been described in
them?
the scientific literature before.
So you picked a mushroom that no one knew existed before, hadn't been
described scientifically. We had known about it for about 3 years, but this is the largest eruption, and from that collection became part of of the type collection that anchored the species taxonomically. So I think some of the specimens still exist in herbaria around the world because it's the reference standard. So we go back to the house, and it's like, we gotta dry them. So we lay out newspapers, and the whole newspapers were just covered with mushrooms. And so that night, there's about 4 guys from Yale, all neurophysiology, all scientists, on the scientist track, and let's eat them. And so, this is not very potent. They're 1/10 the potency of cubensis, so we made smoothies. And oh my gosh, talk about the gag reflex. So we had to make these smoothies. We had to eat 50 of them in order to have a dose equivalent to what psilocybe cubensis would be. So I knew that. So we made these incredibly distasteful milkshakes, and we chugged them and we drank them, and then amazing experience. I bonded with my brother. It was beautiful. And then you're peeking at this experience. You look around, and there's like tens of thousands of these mushrooms. Like, oh my gosh, all for science. And so I go to bed, and I'm laying in bed, and full-blown experience. And, I can barely sleep because all the colors are keeping me awake, and my mind is racing. And then I have a lucid dream. And I'm dreaming, and I wake up, and I go downstairs, and I go, I had this crazy dream. And what's your dream? And I said, I saw thousands of cattle dead, baking in the sun. I said, I think there's going to be a nuclear war. But what could kill all these cattle? At the time of the Reagan administration and all that, and, the tension was really high between the Soviet Union and the United States. And they said, and they were joking with me, saying, "Oh, well, okay, when is it going to happen?" I go, "I know. I was in Olympia, and I needed to rush up to Darrington to stay in my cabin because my books were up there, my manuscripts were up there. I need to save my research." So they laughed and they laughed. They said, "Well, when's the world going to end, Paul?" And I go, "Well, it's not this weekend. That was like in 2 days. It's next weekend." So they wrote on the calendar, December 1st. I put it in my book. I think it's 1975. The end of the world. They wrote, Paul predicts the end of the world. Massive rains the next week. Huge amounts of snow. And then on Wednesday, Thursday, temperature inversion. Flipped to 75 to 85 degrees. All the snow started to melt. All the rivers were flooding. And my little cabin was right next to this river that would swell from morning to night. It would go up 6 feet just from the snow melt, because we're very close to this volcano and big glaciers. I said, oh my gosh, I'm gonna lose my manuscript, all my research. I need to get up there. And so I'm watching the news, and the roads are being closed. So I had to go through Rockport, Washington, the back way in order to get back to my cabin. I get to my cabin, and the bank had eroded about 10 feet. I was only about 10, 12 feet away from the river now. My cabin was on the verge of falling. I got my manuscript, I got all my books, I rescued all the material I had, but I couldn't get out of there because the roads had been closed. And so I had to wait 2 days, and the roads then opened up, and I drove out of the valley into the Snohomish Valley, and I went around the bend, and there the sun, it was a brilliant sunny day, a warm day, and they're floating in the fields were hundreds and hundreds of dead cattle. How do you explain that? I entered, I think, into the multiverse.
Whoa! Now, as a scientist, you realize when you say something like that, you open yourself up to ridicule. Do you feel hesitant to communicate these ideas?
Well, to a degree, yes. But, I'm 62 years of age, and, at one point, I just don't care. I just don't care, This is true. This happened to me. And I can push the envelope on the ideas because the credibility of my research is well established. I can save the bees. Do you care whether I have taken psilocybin mushrooms, if I can save your farm, your family, your country, or the world billions of dollars and protect biosecurity?
I care more.
I care more. That's right. Yeah. So I'm telling you things. I'm not making these up.
I don't think you are.
I don't have to.
I just wonder.
But just because you can't explain it does not mean it's not true.
Right.
And I think that we need to accept the fact that the reality is not limited to the perception that we have traditionally used.
That's a beautiful way to describe it. Let's end with that. That's perfect.
Thank you, brother.
Paul, thank you so much. I'm so glad you came here, and thank you to all the people that recommended you and turned me on to your work. And can we do this again?
I'd love to.
Please. All right. And if people want to research more of your stuff, fungi.com, and what was the other website?
And hostdefense.com.
Hostdefense.com. Yeah. And there's a ton of other information, TED Talk.
And I have a youtube.com/Paul Stamets site. And Louis Schwarzberg, a shout out. We have a fantastic fungi.com. Check it out. Louis and I are coming out with a movie that describes much of this stuff.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, brother.
Woo, that was awesome.